Good evening. I'd like to call together to order this a special meeting of the Board of Supervisors. Mr. Miller, do we have any amendments to the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We're going to ask you to amend the agenda to have a opportunity to discuss board legislative priorities.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a motion properly second, and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay, we'll get that in there. Now we'll open up the floor for public comment. Is there anyone here for public comment? Seeing none. Mr. Dines, anyone online for public comment? Anybody received any correspondence that need to be read into? Okay, we will close public comment. Mrs. Kupka.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I asked to have this item added to the agenda this evening regarding a legislative discussion for board priorities for next year. I think we probably all received an email, a mass email yesterday afternoon from VACO regarding a VACO regional meeting for our region, Region 7 and Region 5 that's coming up on July 12th. And of course, with it being the July break, we won't have another meeting where we're all together until July 19th. And the email requested that someone from your locality be able to speak to inform the group as far as what your legislative priorities are so that VACO can come up with its legislative priorities for the body for next year. So I just wanted to ask my colleagues, I don't know who else is attending, but did anyone have any input that they wanted to offer, and would it be all right if I shared it? And I will say I did look at the agenda. There is a speaker who will be presenting. The keynote speaker, I believe, is from Virginia Department of Energy, and the topic will be solar farms.
Yeah, and since I'm on that committee, so I don't really have anything to add.
Does everybody just want to get together, and if they have any comments or everything, they can send them to Mr. Miller, and then Mr. Miller can forward them on to Mrs. Kupka, so we can.
Yeah, and Mr. Chair, the solar one is very important because that legislation is on a fast timeline to come down for the regulation, and as many people know, because of the Clean Air Act that Governor Northam did in 2020. There's a big push by 2030 to maximize solar fields and wind. So they're looking at localities that have a lot of open land. So we will have, I'm sure, lots of people at our doorstep. So that's just an FYI. It's a big push.
Okay. So if everyone could just look into it just briefly and then get something to Mr. Miller before the meeting. If y'all have anything to pass on, she can pass it on. That's it.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Moving on to action items. Mrs. Hahn.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. This action item is to amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 budget. The King George Board of Supervisors held a public hearing on June 15th regarding the proposed operating budget for fiscal year 2022-2023. At the Board of Supervisors meeting on June 22nd, 2022, the budget was adopted in the amount of $109,267,366. The King George County School Board met on June 27th, 2022, and they approved a general fund budget in the amount of $54,737,565, reducing the overall budget to $108,357,939. This is related to the construction line that has been given to the schools, and it is a reimbursable line. They've worked with the Department of Education to find areas in their operating budget that they can use the funds for. Thus, they're cutting their state funding budget by $909,000. I think I have it over 427. And also their operating budget, so that to keep the revenues and the expenditures balanced. So at this time, I recommend that you amend the fiscal year 2022-2023 operating budget by $909,427 for a total of $108,357,939.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion made properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Next is to amend the resolution for appropriation for fiscal year 2022-2023 King George County operating budget. I provided to you in your board packet an updated resolution for the 2022-2023 operating budget, and I recommend that you adopt the amended resolution as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
And then the final item that I have tonight is, if you look at the information that was provided to you, the King George County Schools fiscal year 2022-2023 operating budget by major classification: instruction, $41,056,890. Administration, $2,149,208. Transportation, $3,967,127. Operations and maintenance, $4,919,784. Facilities, $389,251. And technology, $2,255,304 for a total operating budget of $54,737,565. And at this time, I recommend that we appropriate the King George County Schools fiscal year 2022-2023 operating budget by major classification in the total amount of $54,737,565.
So moved.
Second.
A motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Hahn. Nothing else, Mr. Miller?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we have an amendment?
Mr. Chair, would you indulge a question of staff? Would you mind, Ms. Hahn? Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we just amended the budget from last week that we adopted by $909,427.
Yes, ma'am.
So we still had that amount in there as revenues, though.
No,
No?
it was lowered for the state revenue.
It was lowered for the state.
Right, because when they spend the money from their operating budget, they will submit a reimbursement to the state and will be reimbursed for that. So we had to lower both the expenditure side and the revenue to have a balanced budget.
Understood. So if revenues for fiscal year 22 continue to show a surplus, is that something we could look at in the fall, maybe addressing?
We can look at that after the completion of the annual audit. And at this time, we're not sure exactly when that's going to be. We're shooting for late September, early October. And we need to look at things like the Revenue Stabilization Fund that we borrowed against in fiscal year 21 due to the pandemic. And now that our operating budget has increased, we might need to also increase that fund as well by additional money other than just repaying it.
Gotcha. And then one other question. Do you have any idea, and maybe this might be a better question for the commissioner though, but my understanding is right now we don't prorate personal property tax. Is that correct?
I believe that is correct. So if someone moves into the county, they pay, but I'm not positive, so it probably is a better question for her. But if we do prorate, if we don't prorate, it means that if an individual moves into the county after the 1st of January, then they pay.
They don't
tax
pay until
the
June.
following January.
Next year.
or the next, right?
January.
But vice versa, if they
Leave the county.
live here only for a few days in the first cycle, they still have to pay the full amount.
That's correct.
So can I ask my colleagues for future discussion, would there be any will to consider adopting a local ordinance that would allow us to prorate? I'm just thinking in time for fall is coming and we would have to have, public hearing and waiting advertisement and all that good stuff. If we could get it done before the December tax bills go out is what I was thinking. That's why I'm bringing it up now. And I don't mind saying I have seen a few people comment that I only lived here for 3 days and I just got a $700 tax bill on my truck. So would there be consensus to direct staff to look into that?
Sure.
Yes? Yes? All right. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Ms. Hahn.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
Move to adjourn until Tuesday, July 19th at 6:30 PM in the boardroom.
Second.
We have a motion properly seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.